Chapter 651, Unreasonable Conditions. Actually, Lu Shu had thought of fooling Bennett for some monetary benefits on the spot. But he did not do so because on the one hand, Bennett was probably smarter than a simple fool, and on the other hand, Lu Shu had no confidence in defeating two Class Bs. At the moment, upon successful completion of his goal, Lu Shu could leave the place. Honestly speaking, it was not an easy task for Lu Shu to act as Howard. Although both of them had a similar height of 1.8 m+, Howard was indeed buffer than him. Nonetheless, it was not as obvious with the suit on. And the suit came from Zhao Yongchen too. After Xia Renqing's team arrived in Africa, a huge box of clothes were delivered to Zhao Yongchen. He had been confused for a long while about what it was for, as clearly Heavenly King Mia would not be so kind as to give him warm clothes for no reason. Besides, the clothes were not of his size too. In the end, Lu Shu's appearance provided the answer. As the chief officer of the African Intelligence Network, Zhao Yongchen's personal safety was highly valued by the Heavenly Network. Hence, under the usual circumstances, communications with him were unidirectional. He would contact others, but he could never be traced back to. Yet, this too changed for Lu Shu. Lu Shu could find him, but not the reverse. It was as if there was a new superior for all the intelligence agents, who now must listen to Lu Shu unconditionally. And the secret about Lu Shu's possession of the mask was strictly confidential to anyone below Zhao Yongchen. Zhao Yongchen was startled when he learned what Lu Shu had done. He was such an intrepid, ingenious and inventive troublemaker. Given Zhao Yongchen's personality, he would have probably devised a more concrete plan if he wanted to create conflict among the large organizations. Yet, Lu Shu's actions seemed spontaneous and aimless. Besides, Zhao Yongchen could not understand the purpose of Lu Shu's visit to the EO headquarters using Howard's appearance. At this very moment, news spread out that EO had made a public announcement about their alliance with the Phoenix Society, stating that the mineral reserves would be given to the Phoenix Society unconditionally and Bennett himself would assume the role of a counselor in the society. Zhao Yongchen was stunned. What the heck? Lu Shu had actually forged an alliance with EO on behalf of Howard. But the thing was, did the Phoenix Society even know of it? The Phoenix Society had been forced into an alliance. Meanwhile, Francesco received the message when he was still with Howard. What? Had the both of them not just agreed to take down Bennett first? Why had the Phoenix Society allied themselves with EO in secret? Howard was utterly puzzled. What the heck was Bennett doing? Since when did the Phoenix Society agree on an alliance? Then, Francesco turned and hissed at him. F***CKU. Howard was speechless. From Francesco Russo's distress, plus 999. From Howard Miller's distress, plus 999. The news came too fast, and there were no words on the side of EO regarding how or when the alliance was formed. It took Bennett a great deal of effort to cozy up to someone powerful. While he was under immense pressure due to the Department of Faith Theory, the conditions offered by Howard were very tempting as well. Therefore, he wanted to quickly publicize the news before the Phoenix Society changed their mind. Francesco left with his team, looking sullen. He had to settle this emergency. In the meantime, Howard still could not figure out what had happened. Nevertheless, casting Bennett's potential mental problems aside, it seemed that things were going in favor of the Phoenix Society. They would not reject the idea of owning the mineral reserves on their own, plus the bonus point that they now had EO experts on their team. With two Class Bs, they would have indisputable control over the African continent. He was certain that the Class A of the department would not interfere with the matter. After all, his avoidance of the puppet master was evidence of his own lack of power. As for the promise of a counselor role, Howard let out a cold laugh. Did positions or titles matter that much? Not at all. Howard decided to play along with it. In the future, the Department of Faith Theory would no longer have a share of the mineral reserves because they would be the legal property of the Phoenix Society. Certainly, they could still compete for the resources, although it would not be morally right for the department to do so. A position and title in exchange for a physical mine and a group of experts. With these, the Phoenix Society would be able to dissolve EO sooner or later. That sounded like just the perfect deal. But then Howard was informed that EO had come to the villa to claim the resources the Phoenix Society had promised for the merger. Howard was confused. What resources? His subordinate was confused too. Bennett said that you know the conditions. Both of you have agreed on them. That did not ring a bell at all. Howard said, go and ask him about the conditions. After a while, the subordinate came back. 30,000 magical stones, 10 magical weapons, 10 awakening fruits. That's insane. Howard exploded at once. From Howard Miller's distress, plus 999. You didn't know, the man asked carefully. Howard was in a fit of anger. Of course I don't know. How could he have agreed on such unreasonable conditions? Bennett must be crazy. Then how should we reply to EO? The subordinate asked. Tell them that we will never fulfill those conditions. Stop daydreaming, Howard replied impatiently. The subordinate obeyed, in a nicer tone of course. However, his expressions were dark when he reported back to Howard. Mr. Miller, Bennett said that. Howard was annoyed by the man's hesitation. What did he say? I want his original words. The man pondered over his use of words and said, he said that you are cheeky to deny what you have promised. He also said that you are probably the son of a non-human, and that your son may have inborn physical defects, that your wife may have betrayed you, and he wants to be your stepfather. Howard was speechless. From Howard Miller's distress, plus 999. Howard had an urge to kill Bennett immediately. Despite his subordinate's refined phrasing, he could easily imagine Bennett's original sentences. Wait a minute. Howard suddenly noticed that something seemed wrong. Bennett would not have been so furious if he had simply been rejected for his unreasonable self-claimed conditions. It seemed as though he had really been betrayed. Ask him about the time and details of the alliance. Howard ordered in a stern voice. He had a feeling that he had finally gotten one step closer to the truth of this farce. Chapter 652, Character Destroyed Again. Howard felt that something was not right as Bennett seemed too certain of the cooperation between the Phoenix Society and EO. It was as if they had actually talked about it. He seemed to take some of the conditions for granted, as if Howard had not thought that he would reject the offer. But Howard could not understand. Bennett had put forth such exorbitant conditions. What was he thinking? Thus, Howard suddenly realized that there was a problem. What exactly the problem was, he did not know. But he had to make things clear. Howard stamped his foot. The temperature of the air suddenly increased. The weeds underneath his feet had burnt to a crisp. A circle of fire spread out from Howard's body. Its power was frightening. The subordinates who were by his side were sent flying outwards by this circle of fire. He did not retreat and rushed forth. Lu Shu was depressed. His character had been destroyed again. When Lu Shu came out from the EO headquarters, he rushed towards where Howard was without stopping. On the way, he met one of Howard's subordinates and killed him. After that, Lu Shu naturally took on his appearance. But this time, the character and the tone that he used was rather different from the subordinate. At first, Howard may not have realized as he was focused on Bennett. But once he noticed something, Lu Shu's cover was blown. But it did not matter. Lu Shu was out to kill. The Heavenly Network did not make good progress overseas. One of the reasons was because the Phoenix Society and the Department of Faith Theory were too strong. The large organizations once trapped the Heavenly Network at the borders as a form of check and balance. This was Howard's style. It could be said that Howard was one of the most active people in the realm of cultivation. The lights on stage were splendid, even blinding, and Howard was lightly dancing on this stage. His presence was very strong. Earlier, the experts and the majority of the members of the Phoenix Society who had played along were sent to find the expert who had stolen weapons. Thus, Howard was essentially alone now. Lu Shu could not help but think. If launching a sneak attack on Howard could land the Department of Faith Theory in some trouble, then it would ease the current competition for mineral resources. Furthermore, the pressure that the Heavenly Network faced overseas would decrease. They could just wait and see the conflict between the Department of Faith Theory and the Phoenix Society worsen. Lu Shu knew that his character would definitely be destroyed this time. But he did not expect it to be destroyed so quickly. Howard should have concentrated all his hate on Bennett. Why did this happen? But Lu Shu did not know that Howard had not realized the difference in his physique and voice. He even felt that his subordinate was very dishonest and had never been so lowly. As the flame approached Lu Shu's celestial cloak immediately surrounded him. The bright shine of the stars engulfed Lu Shu's body in the light. He charged towards Howard. Howard pointed to the sky and the fire phoenix flew out of Howard's finger. At this moment, the flame in Lu Shu's heart jumped. Lu Shu did not think about this. But the fire phoenix suddenly shrunk and became a fire chicken. Howard was speechless. Howard did not know what had gone wrong. He suddenly felt as if the monarch of flames had arrived, while his own flame had acknowledged its allegiance to its monarch. Some time ago, Liang Che had wanted to attack Lu Shu with his flames, but the flames involuntarily extinguished itself. Liang Che had thought he had used up all his magical energy. Lu Shu had thought so too. But at that moment, Lu Shu suddenly realized that the flame in his heart was not so simple. It was as if it was of high social status in the domain of flames and lorded over its subjects. "Who in the world are you?" asked Howard coldly. He was not an idiot. He definitely knew that he had been suppressed by some mysterious force. But, turning his fire phoenix into a fire chicken was too much, bro? Was it his power, or did he have a mythical object that could retrain the fire element? Howard felt that the latter was more believable. After all, there were no levels for a fire element awakening. Only Class Bs could suppress Class Cs. He was now a Class B expert. His enemy could not be a Class A, right? There were no Class A fire element metahumans. Even if his enemy was a Class A, why was he still toying around with him? Howard would have been dead a long time ago. Furthermore, which Class A would be so bored to the extent that they would disguise themselves as others and come to disgust others? Was he crazy? Lu Shu did not reply to Howard's question. He came to kill Howard. In the end, he realized that he was born with the ability to restrain fire element practitioners. This was like someone passing him a pillow when he wanted to take a nap. Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow appeared with a roar. Lu Shu protected himself behind the two flying swords. When he heard the roar of the flying swords, Howard knew that he and the Department of Faith Theory had guessed wrongly. It was not that the Heavenly King did not have anything up their sleeves. They had just been hiding it. A Heavenly King had come. In Howard's eyes, all the Class B experts in the Heavenly Network were Heavenly Kings. Howard finally understood many things. This Heavenly King was the one who threw the stinky tofu. This Heavenly King was the one who attacked the EO headquarters. This Heavenly King was the one who stole his and Francesco's weapons. The sudden alliance between the EO and the Phoenix Society was also probably this Heavenly King's doing. But when he had all this sorted out, it was too late. His fire element had been suppressed. Howard was only left with his physical power. He would not give in. Howard once again pointed at the sky. He wanted to test whether his powers were still being suppressed. If Lu Shu was using a mythical object, most mythical objects could not continuously suppress the power of a Class B expert. The next moment, another fire chicken dropped to the ground. It ran away clucking. If Lu Shu was facing another Class B expert, no one knew who would die. But he had run into a fire-type practitioner. Lu Shu's two flying swords circled Howard. The physique of elemental experts were slightly weaker, thus Howard was no match for Lu Shu. Howard knew that if he could not think of a way out, he would really die here. Since when did the Heavenly Network have a Heavenly King who was so good at disguise? Furthermore, he had so many methods to kill others. Howard dodged the flying swords as he wildly ran for his life. He retrieved a bottle of scarlet red potion from his invisible storage equipment and poured it into his mouth. He had to protect his own life. Other than unrivaled power, the Phoenix Society was famous for their scientific research in the realm of cultivation. Some said that the Phoenix Society had found a way to allow ordinary people to awaken with great success. Chapter 653, Agreement. Howard had to exhaust his vitality. He did not have any other way. If he delayed any further, he would die. He could only see if his short burst of strength would allow him to break free from the suppression of his flames. The ability to suppress flames was born to restrain fire element metahumans like him. He was in a disadvantageous position. Howard was even slightly scared. In the past, he thought that one's class was all that mattered. But now, as a fire element metahuman, he had encountered his natural enemy. His momentum continued to increase. Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow stayed close to him at all times. Howard's blood flowed out from his skin like a ceremonial robe being cut up again and again. He could no longer feel his left arm. There were countless injuries on his body. He once considered himself to be the best in the world, but now he was running for his life. This was a huge hit to Howard. It made him very angry. When he sensed that his strength had increased to a certain point, he stood still and did not care about being attacked. He raised his hand and summoned the Fire Phoenix. The circle of flames around him blazed again, sending Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow flying outwards. The air within 100 meters of the circle of flames became distorted. The plants instantly withered and curled up. A Fire Phoenix flew out of Howard's hand. The surroundings had reached the temperature previously only made possible using his staff. Howard's gaze was ice cold. He had finally summoned a normal Fire Phoenix by exhausting his vitality. Doing so would destroy his vitality foundation, which may be irreversible in the future. This was hard for Howard to accept, as all along, he had been the person with the most potential to advance to Class A in the Phoenix Society. But compared to facing death, he was very lucky. Howard even considered whether the Heavenly Network wanted to kill him from the start. Was that why they had sent such a strange Heavenly King to negotiate with EO? In reality, even Lu Shu himself had just found out that he could suppress fire types to such an extent. The blazing tail of the Fire Phoenix swayed in the sky. The air started to distort. Howard pointed at Lu Shu. He wanted to use his flames to punish the chief culprit who had destroyed his vitality foundation. Lu Shu was at full concentration and guarded himself well. Howard was indeed very strong. Earlier on, Lu Shu had wanted to quickly end the battle. But he realized that when his flames were being suppressed, he could keep calm even while running for his life. Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow were not able to inflict fatal injuries. Now, Howard had broken free from the suppression of his abilities. But Lu Shu felt that something was wrong. Howard had seemingly used the potion to temporarily advance to Class A. He had used an abnormal way to boost his magical energy and vigor. This was very strange. You can go peacefully. But we're not finished with this. I will personally settle this with you one day on your own territory, said Howard coldly. The Fire Phoenix suddenly flew out. Lu Shu furrowed his eyebrows and thought of what to do next. But he realized that the phoenix was not heading towards him. The red phoenix flapped its wings and picked up the two fire chickens in its mouth before flying away. Howard was silent. Lu Shu looked at the Fire Phoenix flying away. He was dumbfounded. He asked Howard, "What did you say just now?" Howard bowed. "Sorry." From Howard Miller's Distress, plus 999. "Too late, bro." Lu Shu sighed. Lu Shu finally confirmed that his white flame was of a very high rank among all the flames. This ability to suppress flames had surpassed the concept of classes. His flame had asserted his dominance. Howard turned and ran away. He did not think that nothing would happen even after exhausting his vitality. Even if he had summoned a high-leveled fire phoenix, it had rapidly weakened. Behind him, 10 lightning aura blades were carried along by Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow. They charged towards Howard. The lightning aura blades created an electrified wire netting that trapped Howard. Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow would deliver the final blow. The flames around Howard started to diminish. He tenaciously raised his spirit chi armor, which was also quickly broken into pieces. Howard knew that he was done for. From Howard Miller's Distress, plus 1000. Suddenly, Lu Shu stopped everything. He asked, "Have you fought the Puppet Master before?" Howard was mentally prepared to die. When he heard Lu Shu's sudden question, he was dumbfounded. His emotions were all over the place. Howard did not speak. He coldly looked at Lu Shu. Lu Shu continued to ask, "What attacks does the Puppet Master have? For example, small wooden dolls that use red thread to create a web that can kill people? Tell me." This was a doubt that Lu Shu had harbored for a long time. He was very curious. Were the attacks of every Puppet Master the same? He had encountered 2 Puppet Masters so far. They all had an ironclad puppet. But he had only seen Cloudy use the small wooden puppets. Thus, he wanted to know what Tiger Ji's attacks were. Howard did not think that Lu Shu would be interested in this. Lu Shu would not interrogate him about the secrets of the Phoenix Society, right? To be honest, Lu Shu had no intention of questioning Howard about the Phoenix Society. After all, he was not familiar with the Phoenix Society. Even if he wanted to ask, he did not know what to ask. Information about the Puppet Master was not a secret in the Phoenix Society, but Howard thought quickly. He had not given up on this thin thread of hope. Howard said coldly, "If you want me to tell you about the Puppet Master, let me go." Information about the Puppet Master is very important. Knowing this information will be very beneficial to the Heavenly Network. Before he could finish speaking, Lu Shu said, "Okay." Lu Shu's answer was very straightforward. But Howard felt very uncomfortable. This was like buying clothes at a market. The piece of clothing was worth $1,999, but you bargained for $199. At first, you were willing to haggle with the owner for a long time, but the owner agreed immediately. If you did not buy it, you would suffer losses. If you did not buy it, you would have been fooled. You would instantly feel that you were humiliated. Seeing that Howard did not speak, Lu Shu was unhappy. "Since I've agreed, hurry up and tell me." Howard felt as if he was in a deadlock. So should he tell him? From Howard Miller's Distress, plus 999. Howard laughed coldly. "Can you let me go?" "How insincere. I need your assurance." Lu Shu was unhappy. "Why don't you trust me? Not only am I letting you go, I am even personally sending you off." Howard took a long time before he realized that sending you off probably did not mean something pleasant. From Howard Miller's Distress, plus 999. Chapter 654, Everything's Doomed. At this moment, the fire within Howard started condensing. He decided not to waste any more time with Lu Shu. Now that he had lost his ability to fight back, Howard wanted to end his own life before being coerced into a confession. Lu Shu did not stop him. He would not make any compromises to Howard despite his eagerness to learn about the Puppet Master. Quietly Lu Shu watched from the side as Howard destroyed his own foundation. From Howard Miller's Distress, plus 1000. As the person in charge of overseas affairs in the Phoenix Society, Howard was one of the most famous people in the international cultivation realm. It was not an overstatement to claim that he was even more well-known than the saint, who had only fought once after his ascension to Class A. Nevertheless, this man of glory had perished in Africa. For some reason, Lu Shu felt glum looking at his dead body. It was unexpected that a master like Howard would die in such a miserable way. Meanwhile, Lu Shu was confused about his white flame. He once thought that he was just an ordinary orphan. But slowly he had come to realize that his real identity could be much more complicated. He tried hard to recall his childhood memories, but nothing unusual stood out. He was just like any other normal kid, until one day, he was hit by a truck and his black pendant broke. Lu Shu looked down at the white tree mark on his palm. Together with the white flame, these were his mysteries. Who on earth were his parents? What were they like? He had once decided to accept his fate as an ordinary orphan, and the fact that he had been abandoned by his very own parents. He had given up on making guesses or trying to find his biological parents. But many clues had surfaced over time. However, those broken pieces could not lead to any useful answer, except for messing with Lu Shu's emotions. Lu Shu removed the space ring from Howard's finger. Then, he retrieved all the bodies from his seal of lands and burned them together with Howard's. Everything was reduced to dust in the flame. After that, he changed into Howard's appearance. Although his ability to alter his appearance might have been exposed by the previous fake alliance incident, Lu Shu remained unconcerned. After all, they could not do much without knowing his true face. Even Xia Ransheng and his team did not know it was him, let alone Francesco and Howard. However, Lu Shu's secret was not completely safe even after Howard carried the revelation to his tomb. There were still many loopholes. But Lu Shu decided not to care too much about them now. Meanwhile, he was ready to make the current situation even more mind-boggling using Howard's identity. The more messy it got, the more benefits he could gain. Suddenly, he heard faint footsteps when he was about to leave. He saw moving shadows approaching him from all directions in the sparse woods. Lu Shu's face turned stern. Apparently, those people were coming for him. Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow were on standby, and hundreds of beams of lightning aura blade swirled around his chi mountain. He was confident in his abilities to kill his way out, as long as there were no Class A's. Bravo, Howard. With that, Francesco's figure appeared in the woods. His face hidden in the shadow under his white cloak. Francesco made his way to Lu Shu and said, "You fooled us into an alliance with you, while you have secretly signed the deal with Bennett. God punishes liars and cheaters." Lu Shu took a while to read into his lines. Was it simply that the Department of Faith Theory was vexed because of EO's sudden announcement? Mimicking Howard's tone, Lu Shu replied with an arrogant laugh. The cultivation world obeys the laws of nature, the survival of the fittest. You can't blame your weakness on us after we've taken the first move. It served to accentuate the conflict between the Phoenix Society and the Department of Faith Theory. Hence, he must be mean. Lu Shu suddenly noticed that Francesco did not produce any distress points. What? How could he be okay with such an insult? Lu Shu did not believe that Francesco was a man good at controlling his emotions. In the next instant, there was a rustle in the vegetation behind him. Lu Shu gasped in shock as he glanced around. What the heck? All of them were the department's allies in Africa. There were a total of 5 Class Bs from various large organizations. Lu Shu was distressed. He should not have been that proud just now. 5 Class Bs were really too many for him, even though there were no Class As. He could not even defeat 2 Class Bs simultaneously, let alone 5. In an attempt to save the situation, Lu Shu suggested, "Why don't we have the mineral reserves and share them together? The top priority now is to find the man who stole our weapons." We shouldn't harm each other before that man is found. It would not even matter if he promised to surrender the entire mine to the Department of Faith Theory, since he was not Howard himself. Yet, Francesco shook his head and said, "Howard, we can't let you leave this place today. As for the Heavenly Network expert, there's no rush to kill him now." Lu Shu was dumbfounded. "What if I tell you right now that I'm the Heavenly Network expert you've been looking for? Will you let me go back and take a shower since you said you are not in a hurry to kill me now?" Gigi. Everything's freaking doomed. Why had he become Howard now? In the past, Lu Shu really enjoyed acting as someone else because it felt as if everyone was under his control. It solely relied on people's ignorance about the mask relic. However, at this moment, he had inadvertently become Howard's scapegoat. What could he do now? Who would believe his innocence? Lu Shu had never expected that the Department of Faith Theory were such ruthless murderers. They wanted to wipe out such an important man in the Phoenix Society just like this, unconcerned about the severe consequences of this act. Moreover, they were very decisive. They had united their allies to kill Howard when he was alone. But it was Howard's life that they wanted to take, not Lu Shu's. Lu Shu was innocent. Or was he? Lu Shu was not so sure of himself. Nonetheless, it was meaningless to turn back into himself now. He could not possibly say, "I'm not the one you are looking for. I'm not Howard. I was just messing with you." Everything would have been exposed. He would still get a good thrashing. Lu Shu was a tad distressed. What else could he do? Just run. Chapter 655, The Saints Here. While Lu Shu analyzed the situation on the battlefield, he pondered over the best escape route available. A head-on confrontation with Francesco should be avoided if possible, as most likely he was equipped with unknown trump cards just like Howard. Howard's defeat was relatively easy because of Lu Shu's suppression of his fire-type power. However, Lu Shu was not confident at all on whether he could survive a fight with Francesco. Just a few minutes earlier, Lu Shu was still dissatisfied with the rate at which his character had been destroyed. After all, it was very disruptive for his performances, even though he had always purposely revealed himself to achieve some other objective. Nonetheless, Lu Shu was unhappy with his own acting skills. But at this moment, he had no choice but to maintain Howard's identity, which would land him in trouble. Lu Shu felt distressed. He had finally met his karma with the constant change of his identity. Speaking of which, what on earth was the Department of Faith Theory up to? Did they not have any concerns for attacking such an important person of the Phoenix Society? Moreover, if it were really Howard, not Lu Shu, who would be killed next, the Department of Faith Theory would have been the greatest suspect. In addition, those present who were not from the department could probably let the cat out of the bag anytime. There were no secrets in this world. More often than not, people who confided in others about their personal secrets would probably end up regretting their naivety. There was another possibility, that the Department of Faith Theory was not afraid of the saint because they had even stronger support. Lu Shu suddenly pointed towards the sky, which was immediately interpreted as a move to summon his fiery phoenixes. However, nothing happened. At this instant, Lu Shu turned and darted towards one direction, in which the energy waves were detected to be the weakest. Without any hope of a peaceful treatment, he could only run for his life. Honestly speaking, Lu Shu blamed this on Howard. It must be because of something he did that pissed off the Department of Faith Theory. Nonetheless, it seemed that the rest had predicted Lu Shu's escape route. The five-man formation was set in motion immediately with Lu Shu's movement. Only then did Lu Shu finally realize how terrifying 5 Class Bs were when they joined forces on a killing mission. The pressure he was under was even greater than the time he faced Takashima Tairatsu. The 2 metal-type metahumans were surrounded by numerous sharp weapons made of special metals, ready to fire them as missiles anytime. Lu Shu could even sense something more exceptional in the hundreds of metallic blades. The energy waves inside were extremely powerful. It would not be an exaggeration if those metal-type experts claimed to be flying dagger users. Yet, the main difference was that their main advantage lay in the quantity of their weapons, and each metal piece were far less fatal than a flying dagger. Tree branches swayed hard under the energy waves. Leaves fell down, but were shattered by invisible forces before they touched the ground. Lu Shu felt stressed being forced into this situation, in which Francesco seemed to have complete dominance. He paced forward slowly, as his white cloak flapped in the air. It was getting dark, but there was a holy glow surrounding Francesco. With every step he took, Lu Shu's heart shuddered in the force field formed by him and the 5 Class Bs. Francesco said composedly as he made his unhurried approach, "Did I not tell you before? You should be strong, fearless and calm, because wherever you go, God will be with you." His voice felt like shackles and chains. Suddenly Lu Shu saw a similar glow around himself, just like the one around Francesco. However, he could feel a suffocating force from the glow. At that instant, Lu Shu realized the fighting techniques that the Department of Faith Theory used in the past never focused on exceptional individual strength. Instead, their specialty had always been in group battles. They had their own army. Hence, they probably had fatal strategies to kill their enemies together, provided that their inherited trade was complete. The silver glow around Lu Shu increased in brightness as time trickled by. He might be completely immobilized anytime soon. There existed an analysis on the Phoenix Society and the Department of Faith Theory. The Phoenix Society were characterized by a few aggressive members, including the Saint and Howard, and they focused on sudden increases in personal strength. However, the Department of Faith Theory were different, as they liked to weaken their enemies via restrictive means. Hence, it was believed that the Saint dared to face the puppet master while the bishop of the department had chosen to avoid the conflict, because the department had many unpredictable fighting techniques, and so did the puppet master. Therefore, being more conservative, the bishop did not view it worth his time to fight unprepared. Suddenly, Lu Shu felt an extremely strong energy from the sky. It exploded outwards with a loud bang. In utter astonishment, everyone looked up to see 2 figures clashing in the sky. The immense power that radiated from them distorted the surrounding space. From afar, it looked like a collision of 2 light balls. Lu Shu was stunned. Apparently, the 2 of them were not Class A's from the Heavenly Network, because he knew Chen Bailey's and Nie Ting's fighting styles. Their identity was clear, since they were not Li Xianyi nor the puppet master neither. Chen Bailey, Nie Ting, Li Xianyi, the bishop of the Department of Faith Theory, the Saint, and the 2 puppet masters, they represented the strongest forces currently on the earth. They were like the legendary great masters, standing on the highest peak of the cultivation realm. Using the exclusion technique, the 2 men in the sky could only be the Saint and the bishop. It was totally unexpected that these 2 Class A's would have come to this continent by themselves. No one even knew why they had come. When they met in the sky, the Saint initiated the attack. It was said that the Saint was a bellicose man. He had picked a fight with the puppet master in the South American remains. There were even posts on the Golden Foundation saying that the Saint wanted to defeat all experts and emerge as the sole overlord of this world. But Lu Shu did not quite agree. The Saint would have fought with Nie Ting and Li Xianyi if he was really that powerful and confident. Certainly, though, Lu Shu would keep it to himself because none of the Class Bs in their right mind would want to cause themselves trouble by annoying Class As. From the sky, the Saint looked down at Lu Shu. His voice was as cold as the undercurrents in the deep ocean. Go. Overjoyed, Lu Shu ran off at once. You see, the Phoenix Society was a very reliable organization, for its leader had traveled such a long distance just to save him. Wonderful.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Last cups half full or empty. Man, we just put them on the shelf. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we better.